Good evening. It is 6:30 and we're ready to begin. Diane, would you like to see which public officials are with us this evening?
Yes, sir. Mayor Kathy Catazero-Perry,
Good evening, everyone.
Safety Service Director Barb Sylvester, Auditor Jane Ferraro,
Stephanie Myers is here for the auditor's office.
thank you. Law Department, Justin Richard or Bill Bartos.
Yes, ma'am. Present, Justin Richard. I believe Bill's also on the call as well.
Okay, thank you.
Here as well.
Thank you. Community Development Director Samantha Walters. Economic Development Director Dave Maley.
Present.
Parks and Rec Director Steve Pedro.
Yes, hello, everybody.
Let's see. Treasurer Maud Flagel. Income Tax Budget Director Lori Katagides Boron. Are there any city officials present that I might have missed?
Diane, this is Debbie Bonk. I'm on.
Okay. And Claudette Eisnick. Okay, I think that's it.
Hey, Diane,
Yes.
this is Ted. I got Claudette on my cell phone here. She's having trouble logging in. I'm going to give her the call-in number.
Okay.
She said it keeps saying meeting hasn't started yet when she clicks the link, but
Okay.
for right now. Okay, thanks.
Sure. Thank you. That's it, Ed.
All right, thank you. Do you want to confirm which council members are present?
Sure. Creamer,
Present.
Greg,
Present.
Kane,
Here,
Lewis,
Here.
Littman,
Here.
Lombardi,
Here.
Sloots,
Here.
Starrett,
Here.
and Barrett.
Present.
All 9 present, Ed.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There, just so you know, it looks like you're logged in twice, and that might have been why you got so much of that echo when you spoke. With that said, community development.
I have nothing new tonight.
Environmental. Mr. Kane, you have nothing new tonight.
of course we don't.
Health and welfare.
Nothing new.
Park and rec.
I have nothing new tonight, but I would like some clarification regarding some statements that were made at the Park and Recreation meeting. I think it was possibly early December. And the discussion was brought up, and I guess who I'm asking clarification is possibly from administration. When they were talking about extending the offer to all city employees who are eligible for health care benefits, another 2-year complimentary membership to the Massillon Recreation Center, there was a couple statements made by the city representative, and I can't recall specifically who that was, that the city receives $161,000 back refund from, I believe, the insurance company. And 50% of that refund goes to the employees and 50% of that goes back to the city. And I just wanted to get verification on that particular statement and how that breakdown is determined and where that money is refunded back to the city.
Good evening, everyone. This is the mayor. Hope you're all doing well. That there is some truth to that, and I'll give you the details of that. Because of our wellness program and because we are doing such a great job with going to our doctors instead of going to the emergency rooms, and we were given a rebate last year, and we're getting one again this year. And the rebate comes back to the city. It was my decision to split that and give 50% to our employees. So there'll be about 2 months, and that was just done again for this year. And the auditors really, vamp that out as far as pays, but there really isn't any money that goes to our staff. It just is like a credit towards paying their insurance. So this is really something where we're being rewarded for by the insurance company, and it's really a good thing. But it was, I did not feel it was right to keep all of the money for the city. And we could have just given 15% back to the staff, but we decided that we want to encourage them to continue to do what they're doing, right? So we gave them 50% back. Is that helpful, Mrs. Kramer?
Yes, thank you. So the rebate that comes back to the city, is that then like allocated back to the account that we pay insurance from, or where is that rebate then deposited?
Stephanie will be able to answer that question. That's an auditor's question. But that, and I don't even know if money's exchanged. As I said, it's like a credit towards their benefits. Stephanie, would you be able to answer the rest of that question, please?
Yes, Mayor. The credit just comes back on the medical mutual invoice. They just credit a certain month that they pick, and we do distribute that evenly through all the departments based on how many employees they have on each specific plan in that department. So everything gets equally distributed back to the city as it does to the employees also. And then wellness also, like to get the rebate, the employees had to go get a health check. They had to fill out a well-being assessment. There's a lot that the employees had to do in order for us to get this rebate.
Okay, thank you so much.
I do have a question in regards to that same subject matter, Mr. Lewis. May I ask it?
Mrs. Littman, you can go ahead.
Thank you. My question would be to Stephanie as well. As you were rebating these dollars, basically reducing the employees' premiums, was it different for an employee that's paying a family plan versus a single individual plan?
It was based on, we figured it based, like if you had a family plan, you paid more towards the premium. So we equaled it out that the staff, no matter what plan you are, you got a break for, say, I think it was 3 pays, you didn't have to pay premium, and then partial of the 4th pay. So it's equally distributed. So if you paid more for a family plan, you got more of a credit when the credit came around. But everybody was equally, if this makes sense, not paying their premiums all at the same time. So for 3 pays, no one paid any of their premiums, and then a half a pay or a partial of a pay, everybody, it was all equally distributed based on the plan that you had, if that makes sense.
May I ask the mayor if that rebate for 2020 will be treated the same way in a 50-50 manner?
Yes, we decided to continue the same manner, to continue to encourage our employees to do all the right things and to keep our premium down. And so it really has benefited us as a city, and we wanted to reward everyone. And so, as Stephanie said, they, whether it's a single or a family, whatever they paid in, they will not have to pay, for those months. And so this is a really a positive moment for our city as far as healthcare.
Anyone else have any other questions regarding that? Right, thank you. Mr. Lewis, I have nothing else for Park and Recreation.
Thank you, Ms. Creamer. Police and Fire.
Mr. Lewis, I do not have anything this evening. However, I would like to ask for an update on how our new canine units are, as they have been added to our police force. I've been asked by residents, how is that process moving along?
I can have the chief feedback on the call next week to answer those questions. Those would be more directed towards him.
Okay, that would be fine, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have anything further.
Public Utilities.
Nothing for public utilities this week.
Rules and Courts.
Yes, I have a number of items. Starting off with request for legislation from Parks and Recreation Department. Request to amend ordinances 137-2020 occupational list of class titles by replacing it with attachment A. Positions are part-time within the Parks and Recreation Department to include the Legends Golf Course. Changes are requested to begin and be effective 2/15/21. The measure was approved by the Recreation Board in the January 20th, 2021 meeting. I know I heard Mr. Pedro was on the call. Mr. Pedro, could you speak to this?
Yes, what we have here, we added some parks positions. As of today and previously, our Parks Department for part-time and seasonal workers, we were only able to hire them in at minimum wage. We're finding it very difficult the last couple of years to get people to come and work for us for that. So I worked with the auditor's office, the Parks Department, or Park Superintendent, in our labor lines 1 through 6 for Parks and Rec. We added Parks Maintenance, as you can see there, a different title for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for people that may stay for a while. We do have a couple individual, or we have one individual right now that's been here for a little over 2 years, and to keep him at minimum wage is going to be very difficult. The other thing is this kind of makes us competitive for other departments in the area to attract some people to come and work in our parks. That's the main purpose for this thing. And the addition there's a couple other additions. The front desk lead 2, again, that's a person with more experience that stays around. We have a great individual that's been here a while. She probably will fall into that category. But this is more than anything is to stay competitive and to be able to hire people and retain them.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? First of all, from Rules and Courts Committee. How about any other members of council? Mrs. Levin?
Mr. Gregg, my question would be to Mr. Pedro. I think in the past, we've only entertained employment for those 18 years and older. Wondering if, it looks like some of these positions perhaps could be filled by, if we're looking at temporary help anyway, filled by either roles. Is that something we have an open mind to or would be considering entertaining?
It's something to look at, Mrs. Lippman. We haven't changed that as of right now, but it's we at least have the conversation.
Do you think these pay scales would be appropriate for if you would decide to go 16 to 18 as well?
Yes, I mean, regardless of, if we were to change that, these are, what we did, I talked to other parks and rec departments, and again, I'm trying to stay competitive, so we can retain people. It's hard to keep people part-time. I mean, at least we can target the college kids with a little more for the summer especially, and maybe even some high school kids, so that's the whole purpose for this. But that I meant it would stay the same, I think. I don't know that there would be any changes, and unless we decide to make some different ones. But that is a conversation that I'm welcome to have.
Mr. Gregg.
Mr. Lewis, go ahead.
I just wanted to say to the point that if we do look at the 16 to 18 age range, make sure you look at our insurance liability policies, because with the heavy machinery and the other equipment that we use in our parks, someone under the age of 18 might be considered a liability and cause insurance issues. Just so as you explore that, make sure you look at that facet as well.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I believe this has emergency language. Mr. Pedro, is this something needs to be passed sooner rather than later?
Well, we just put this together this year after if you recall, we came back for the minimum wage change. It isn't always that way, but yes, I would say that so we could get started, especially, the season will start in March or April, depending on the weather, to get people in here. So I would ask that it was with emergency language, please.
Okay, Diane, you have my verbal to put this on the next meeting's agenda.
Megan Starrett, verbal.
Thank you.
Okay, next piece I have is from just one moment, I'm scrolling through here. Requested by Maud Slagle, the Treasurer's Department. Please prepare an ordinance to amend Section 1 of Ordinance Number 33, 2016 to read as follows. Section 1, the Council of the City of Massillon, Ohio hereby adopts and approves the cash drawer policy that has been submitted by the Treasurer of the City of Massillon, Ohio, and attached here to and marked as Exhibit A, revised 1/15/2021. See attached cash drawer policy with changes highlighted in red and the revised policy. This does have emergency language. The reason is due to increased customer activity, the golf course needs more cash available when the course opens March 1st, 2021. Who would like to speak to this? Someone
This
from
is
the
Maud.
treasurers?
This is Treasurer Maud Slagle speaking. I'm sorry, I just joined you now. I am here to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Okay. Can you kind of just give us a summary of the change you request and explain the cash drawer policy?
Well, this is because of the increased business at the Legends. Carrie needs more cash available to make change when required. When the golf course is busier, the staff is busier, so they have fewer opportunities to get to the bank. Plus, they need more money available when people show up with their $100 bills to pay up $15 something. So she's requesting to have more money available for her, I call it her cash stash, basically, to make change.
Okay.
During the golf course season.
Okay. So the cash drawer policy is the amount of change in the drawer. Is that correct?
The cash drawer policy is the amount actually in the drawer to make change, and then this would be kept in a safe to be available to make change as needed.
Okay. Any questions from Rules and Courts Committee? How about any other members of council? Mr. Lewis?
So essentially, because I'm just trying to figure out the highlights, $1,000 is now the number, and then we added will be returned when the golf course closes for the season, and that's the only adjustments other than striking out that all Legends costs go golf course and food and beverage others. Fine.
Right.
Is that-
Yeah, we're just changing, she just needs an extra $300 available. They still have money available during the winter, but this $1,000 will come back, so there's not so much money hanging around there.
Mr. Gregg, this is Linda Littman. May I ask a question?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Thank you. I also see as part of the cash drawer policy, we have previously had a no petty cash policy. And it looks like that has been part of what has been struck out of this new cash drawer policy. Can I ask if we have any or allow any petty cash currently? And is this just to clean up this policy for the future? So that we're taking that out as we are looking at the adjustments?
Well, yes, it's a cleanup, you're right. We have a no petty cash policy, which is itemized in a separate place. So this was kind of repeating what was somewhere else. So rather than have it in two places, I just took it off here and left the petty cash policy stand, which is the only department that has petty cash, as we know petty cash, is food and beverage at the Legends, which they need to make purchases for food as needed in emergencies. Some of their vendors want cash, it's cheaper. So that's why.
Okay. Other questions?
Mr. Gregg, I have one more question.
Go ahead.
At the bottom of the policy, it states the treasurer will, at his or her discretion, audit both the cash and daily logs. May I ask how that is currently being handled by the treasurer's office? How often are those audits being done?
I go periodically and count the cash and see the logs.
So there's no standard schedule on doing so?
Oh, no, I just go when the mood strikes me.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, Diane, you have my verbal to put this on next meeting's agenda.
Starrett, verbal.
Kern Kane, verbal.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item I have is from the municipal court request. Stark County Public Defender's Office has approached the Massillon Municipal Court and requested that the City of Massillon renew the contract wherein the Stark County Public Defender will provide legal representation for indigent defendants that are charged with violation of city ordinances. Previously, the municipal court appointed private counsel to represent indigent defendants charged with a violation of city ordinances. However, appointing private counsel generally costs more than paying the public defender's flat fee of $195 per case for representation of indigent defendants. Payment in accordance with the contract will be paid from the municipal court fund that currently pays private counsel appointed to represent indigent defendants. The duration of this contract is for the period January 1, 2021, terminating December 31, 2021, with an option to renew the contract for a period of 1 year. Mr. Richard, would you like to speak to this?
This is a general contract that we've signed, certainly since my 3 years here. It really does speak for itself. The public defenders are set up to be able to defend mass number of cases, as opposed to hiring individuals for a one-time basis that are private attorneys. It has been one of my goals to. This only applies to those cases that are originally charged under Massillon municipal ordinances that carry up to possible jail time. So whenever it's possible, we choose to use the Ohio Revised Code so we can avoid this charge.
Okay. Questions? Comments? As you said, this is a, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I do have a Friday that the copy of the request for legislation that was sent out was not signed by either the mayor or the auditor. However, I did receive a copy today with the mayor and the auditor's signature.
Okay. So you will be with verbals. You'll be able to put this on the next meeting's agenda, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Again, any other questions or comments? All right. As you mentioned, Mr. Richard, you said this is a standard contract we've done in the past, correct?
Absolutely. You know, there is a constitutional right to counsel, so the courts do have to provide that. This is the cheapest means in the way of doing that.
And I think I read in there, there's no increase in fee from the previous year. Is that correct?
That is correct, and we also have an option to renew next year.
Okay. All right, Diane, you have my verbal to put this on the next meeting's agenda.
Starrett, verbal.
Hernkane, verbal.
Thank you.
And that is all I have for Rules and Courts Committee this evening.
Streets and highways.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I don't have any particular legislation, but I just have a couple of questions, if I may.
Your committee.
I noticed around town some of the lighted speed signs are up, and I wondered how that's going. I see one on Amherst Road there was working one time and not working another time. So I took notice the last time. I haven't seen all the signs yet, but I was wondering if anybody's noticed any results or any change in traffic patterns.
Mr. Thayer, I can tell you that every time I come in from the west side on Millersburg to West Main, I have to wonder why I get nagged every time about my driving. Every time I come in, slow down, because it goes from 45, I think, or something like 40 to 25. So you're having to really quickly. So I've noticed, but that's probably not the update you're looking for.
Mr. Thayer, I see that one on Millersburg Road every single day, and I've seen plenty of people already slamming on their brakes when they see it and traffic slowing down significantly right there. So I would say it is definitely working going into Massillon right there.
Good. Also had any other questions or comments on that? Because of some of the accidents that have happened on Lake Street, at the curve around the 2nd Street area, there's been requests to find out about putting up a guardrail there. And I don't know what the legal limits are for that, if that's even permitted or used in city limits or not. It's supposed to be 25, but as we know, now that the streets are paved, people take more liberties and deeper in the gas pedal. So I'm just wondering if there's any way to get anything like that taken considered.
Good evening, Mr. Thayer. I will take this back to our engineers, and they more than likely would have to do a study on that area before we could do anything. I do not know the answer about the guardrail. So I'll take that back to them and we'll report back next week.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Thayer.
Sir.
Something else, because I think we've probably talked to similar people, because I've gotten a complaint about that as well. And I know I've spoken to the mayor before about it, but even a sign that kind of gives you the heads up that a curve is happening might be beneficial.
I think there's a new speed limit sign there,
Yeah,
right at the corner.
but some of those like chevrons or something to really give you that heads up that we're, because what I think there's a house there that's had 2 wrecks in the past 18 months right in the front yard.
Yeah, total 2 cars.
Yeah.
Mr. Gregg.
I didn't want to take over your meeting, but wasn't sure if you were done or not. But I just wanted to mention I had a couple concerns voiced to me by citizens in my ward regarding trash on Harsh Avenue getting dumped, and I know in one case the city did send a crew and cleaned it up, but it seems to be continuing to happen. I've had a couple citizens ask me about placing a no dumping sign in the area where it's being dumped. It happens to be a low-lying area that's kind of out of view of any of the neighbors in that area, so that's probably why it's being chosen as a trash dump. But they thought perhaps a sign showing that there is a fine involved if someone's caught dumping there might help. So I just thought I'd mention that since that's your committee.
Mr. Gregg, we have had issues with Harsh Avenue since I was councilwoman for Ward 3. It's been a long, long time. It just seems like people think that's the trash can and they throw things there. So I know that we'll get our street department out there to clean that up again. Please just give me a call in my office when you notice that, and we'll be happy to send them out. But it seems to be a constant road that we're cleaning up. So thank you for bringing that again to our attention.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mentioned I drove by there a couple of times. I believe it was Sunday afternoon and yesterday afternoon, perhaps it was Saturday, and it looked pretty good. There's what you might call normal trash laying around, some bottles and cans, not a great deal, but nothing like it had been before. So so far it seems to be okay. But I'll mention to you when I discuss it with the citizens again, I'll mention that city's on top of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of calls about that too, and about trash and furniture and on porches, and basically properties not being kept up. And code enforcement always seems to take notes and try to get something resolved. And I applaud them for their efforts. And between the administration and the code enforcement folks, I think we keep communicating with them that the concerns that we hear, hopefully things will get moving. I'd like to see a lot of things cleaned up before the spring.
Mr. Thayer?
We also have a place on our website that you can put in a compliment or a complaint. And so you can utilize that as well, or call our office. But when we hear about it, the code enforcement is outstanding. They go right out and assess it. And please utilize that form online. It's really easily accessible, and it'll go straight to the correct department that it needs to go to.
Go.
Mr. Thayer?
Go ahead, Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, I was just, while we're having a little bit of discussion here, I was just wondering if we've heard anything about our 2021 paving list. Like what roads and when that would be coming out.
Mr. Lewis, we're working on that right now, our engineering department, and we're trying to finalize it so we can get it to council. We're also working on our capital list that we want to bring to council to expend some of those dollars from our carryover. But I can tell you, we need to buy a fire truck this year. So it's a large expenditure, probably take between 800 and $1 million right off the top of our carryover. So we'll be bringing our capital list to you, as well as the roads that we're putting on to be paved. And in the capital list, I'm trying to add at least $1 million from our carryover to our roads. So we'll have significant paving again this year. But it's all going to depend on what that total amount comes to. And we're finalizing those numbers right now.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms.
Mr.
Linda?
Thayer,
Yes, good.
thank you. I just wanted to also state that we have a speed sign going east on Lincoln Way, out here on the west side. And it too has been received very well by residents because they are noticing also they're going from 55, 45, 35 pretty quickly, and they don't always slow down. So I do think that that is an appropriate placement for that signage, and we certainly appreciate it very much out here on the west side. I'll also want to say thank you to our safety service director for speaking with one of our residents on Main Street. We were having some significant speeding situations there, and I know she has personally had conversation with them again this week and has a plan for signage to be in that location as well. So I did want to shout out a thank you to her as well for taking care of that also.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
All right, finance. Nothing old. You're just so you know, and then the first two pieces that were part of our packet were pulled, so we don't have to go over them tonight.
Not the second one, just the first.
Yeah, just the first one, Ed.
Just the first one was pulled, but not the one that said, okay, that was confusing then.
Yes.
So not the one that says, please prepare legislation to authorize the payment of?
Correct, that one's still in.
Okay. Well, I'll let you go ahead and explain how this all came about, Ms. Myers.
Okay, this legislation is to pay an invoice that is that is taken from the coronavirus money. And we had put all of the money that we had left on 2020 POs because according to our guidelines for the coronavirus funds, it had to be appropriated by the end of the year or have to return it. Well, one of the invoices for this, and the invoices attached for a company, Esri, they are still currently working on stuff. This is for the engineering department, and their invoice is dated 2021, and we cannot pay a 2021 invoice off a 2020 PO. So this legislation, we have to make a 2021 PO. Are not able to do that. We didn't notice it until after the invoice was made. So now the invoice is dated before the PO. So this legislation is to get approval from council to approve a then and now pay a 2020 invoice that is dated before a 2021 PO.
Anybody have any questions?
Hi, honey.
I give my verbal.
Yeah, but I'm muted.
Stare at verbal.
Mike Gregg, verbal.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Oh, excuse me.
No, can we mute caller user 9, please?
Like girl, but what?
Mr. Lewis, this is Mrs. Littman.
Yes.
May I ask Stephanie if this 15,000 is appropriated then and still out of the coronavirus funds, even though it is for 2021?
Yes, it was already appropriated.
Okay, thank you.
All right, our next piece is the summer concert 1212 fund, the following accounts: 6,000 to supplies, 48,000 to service and contracts to allow for the timely processing of concert contracts in preparation for the 2021 concert season. These concerts, the funding for, correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Mayor, but they are all donation funded, correct?
That is correct.
So we're just taking the donated dollars and appropriating to the appropriate accounts. I give my verbal.
Sterrett, verbal.
Mike Gregg, verbal.
Thank you.
The next one is please prepare legislation to appropriate from the unappropriate balance of the Park and Rec Fund, $3,150 grant expenses account. It's appropriation needed to pay the 2021 invoices for the balance of the senior center grant that was received in 2020 in the amount of $25,000. Is Mr. Pedro still on?
Yes, Mr. Lewis. We spoke with the auditor about this as well, and we received a $25,000 grant from the Ohio Department of Aging. They extended that grant process to March 31st, and this is what is left over that we will probably be spending within the next week or so.
So you didn't get all this spent in 2020, so with the extension, you're now able to spend this money in 2021 by March 31st.
Yeah, I was going to do it the last week of the year, and honestly, I think the 28th or 29th, we got an email and extended it. We were rushed into the whole thing, so I figured, since they extended it, we'd hold off and make sure we got everything we needed.
All right, so it's money from a grant. We're appropriating it along with the extension. Are there any other questions? All right, I provide my verbal.
Sterrett, verbal.
Mike Gregg, verbal.
Thank you.
Mr. Richard, are you still on?
Yes.
All right, these are your contracts we're about to discuss. Did you just want to give a general overview?
Absolutely. They're two different contracts, but I'll speak to them all together. One of the goals when I became a law director, I didn't understand why we had part-time prosecutors coming in to prosecute the cases in the Massillon Municipal Court jurisdiction. So even prior to being the law director, former director, now Magistrate Skaza and I went to the other villages and basically pitched them. And this is the last two jurisdictions. I have our numbers, if anyone's curious. We did my office prosecuted approximately 11,400 cases, adding these two villages, Beach City and Wilmot, do not even do a whole 1% of that. But it does bring in a cumulative $8,000 annually to the city. So it just the same way that we have pre-existing contracts with Canal Fulton, Brewster, and Navarre, this now allows us to prosecute cases for the last two. So our department does, in fact, prosecute everything that comes into the Massillon Municipal Courthouse.
I can obviously remember when we did this not too long ago. Does anybody have any questions? I give my verbal on the Wilmot contract.
Sterrett, verbal.
Mike Gregg, verbal.
Thank you.
The next one is just the agreement with Beach City. I give my verbal.
Sterrett, verbal.
Mike Gregg, verbal.
Thank you.
All right, my next one is a transfer in the auditor's office. It is a reduction of the Civil Service Commission by $48,868.72 and placing it into the salary. Is there anyone here to discuss this?
This is Stephanie. I can discuss it. We decided to make a new account number for the Civil Service Administrator since she gets paid every other week, and the Civil Service Commission only gets paid once a month, and just to kind of keep it separate to track it better. So this was just moving the administrator's salary that was appropriated just into a separate account line.
So the commission gets about $10,000 for its members. Is that what it is?
Correct.
And then the administrator is 46,000.
Yes.
868. And then this is a full-time position with benefits and everything, and that's why you're separated.
Yes.
Well, like,
Mr. Lewis, it's
Yes.
30-hour position.
30 hour, okay.
Yes, sir.
As Miss Myers also expressed, it's I'm sorry. So this is salary, it doesn't include benefits or anything like that because it's 30 hours, correct?
No, anything underneath 30 does not include benefits, but once you reach 30 hours, and it's because we're hiring and she's giving tests, and that's why we had to extend her. So she can have the option of having benefits, yes.
But I mean, in this particular line, that doesn't include benefits costs. This is just straight her salary.
That's correct. Yeah, that's
It just caught my eye because a 30-hour employee making $46,000 just kind of caught my eye. Anybody else have any questions? All right. I get my verbal.
Stare at verbal.
Mike Gregg, verbal.
Thank you.
All right, that is all from finance. Madam Mayor, you had stated last week that we were closing on the hospital last week. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that statement?
Yes, we have closed.
Any idea?
We have received our payment, so we have closed.
That's exactly where I was going.
I thought so.
All right. Yes, Miss Littman.
I'll also ask, have we paid all of our utility expenses and other expenses related to the hospital? So we are completely done, or there are still some expenses pending related to the hospital?
We are finishing that up right now, and we're also making sure that we take our insurance off. That was done this week, so off of the building. So we are working on closing all of that out.
All right. Anyone else? Third.
It's not related to that, but a recent discussion with some folks downtown, some of the business owners, they're wondering about, I'm glad to see Mr. Maley's online, because we spoke at length last year on the situations downtown. I know some of it has to revolve around liquor control, but are there plans in place yet for the outside venues for the different restaurants and bars?
Currently, the two that are outside right now that are open, the sangria stand, those have been extended through, I believe, 2022. Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, please.
The expansion permits for liquor department, extended expansion permits for liquor businesses, restaurants, until December of 22. So we expect most of that to be going on until at least the liquor department makes some other determination.
So the other downtown business could do the same.
Absolutely, yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Did you say December of 22?
Yes.
So almost 2 years from now.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we have come to the point in time in the meeting where we can have public comment. If you'd like to share anything with City Council tonight, you may do so. Please remember this is not a Q&A session. We do ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. If there's anyone that wants to speak, go ahead now.
President Pro Tem Ed Lewis, how are you and how's everybody there?
Hello?
Okay, President Ed Lewis?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. I want to talk here about Mayor Kathy Catazera Perry stated in her State of the City address not too long ago, folks, that the City of Massillon, Ohio spent $661,232 for catch basin repair and replacement here in the city. Okay, I talked to a lot of you councilmen and former in the past, and we have a lot more problems with catch basins than that amount of money. I want to mention Paul Manson and then Mylon, a bunch of other people too that have served on council. And as of tonight, we have 55 to 60 still place of barrels out there to take care of folks here in the city of Massillon. And if you want to know just how bad these catch basins are in the city of Massillon, the man who definitely knows about it more than I think anybody, more than some of the mayor's office, I think, is Tony Ulrich. He's the wastewater department general manager. And I asked Tony, how many basins are you fixing, Tony? How many are out there replacing? And I'm really happy to tell you tonight that Tony put together a program, and he rates these on 0 to 5. He inspects all these catch basins with his fine inspectors here in the city of Massillon. He rates them, okay, 0 to 5. Right now he's inspecting 3s, and then he's going to send them out to bid, and we'll see where we stand. So if there's any 4s and 5s, that 55 to 60 catch basins, folks, can add up to 60, 65. And remember, these catch basins always keep popping up, maintenance, repair, and replace. So Tony does do the barricades, the cones, and he gets those fast and first, so and so. But I've talked to a lot of residents too, and they've asked me, they said, hey, what's going on with these catch basins here in the city of Massillon? It's terrible. Well, me and Tony hope that they're not saying that now, because Tony has a new list coming out. He's going to work on it, and we'll see. But if he said, Tony told me, if we can get this big chunk knocked out, we'll be in pretty good shape, okay? Those 55 to 60, and it could go to 70 basins depending on how much they report. They use that GIS mapping systems. They take picture of it, all of his inspectors. They rate them. They know what's going on, and he takes care of them. So, you know, I feel good about talking to Tony after that, and I think we're going to be very well served here in the future. And just for the record, I talked to my friend, the superintendent of the streets, Mr. Lee McBride, also talked to Tony. And these both gentlemen we're in good hands with all this stuff going on. And just real quick here, because I wasn't really going to talk about this, but you guys mentioned about how you talk to the people, the business owners in Massillon, Ohio. I deal with a lot of these business owners in Massillon. I don't believe they were all consulted. And some of them are under the notion that this was supposed to be taking up in the winter at some of our city council meetings. So I don't have time for that. Got to end it here, but I want you to be safe. Have a great night, everybody. And thank you, President Pro Tem, for giving me the time tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
I know you just said this isn't a question and answer period, but I'd like to give the correct information to City Council, if I may.
In regards to
Catch basins.
Okay. Yes, go ahead and update us with the number of catch basins that we've done or the process thereof.
We have rated all the catch basins in the city. All of them that are 4s and 5s are completed except for 60. So I want you to have the correct information that the team has worked so extremely hard on. We have them going to be all those 4s and 5s that are the 60 that are left. They will be corrected this year. And some of those 3s that we had, you know, we rate them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Some of the 3s that we have are now 4s. So they've been added to the 4 and 5 list for this year. Once we finish those this year, we should only have 1, 2s, and 3s. And so this is a great position for our city. I want you to know the staff has worked extremely hard. We've contracted a lot out with doing our road repavement. And so this is exciting for our city. This is not a negative, and I want you all to be happy about that. So if you get questions about the catch basins, the staff has done an excellent job as well as the contractor. So I just want to clarify that with you. So when you do get questions, you have the correct information.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. DeLuca, for both of you guys keeping this at the forefront of our attention.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Ed Lewis. Thank you.
With that, we will be adjourned. See you guys next Monday.
All right.